Good evening and welcome to the British Dyslexia Association's webinar broadcast, Raising Attainment with Assistive Technology with Scanning Pens. You will have seen from our opening slides, we have lots to offer here at the BDA, from training, helpline, assessment and much more. So please do visit our website for further information. On to tonight's broadcast then. We are delighted to be joined by Jim, Jack and James from Scanning Pens. Although the BDA never endorse products, it's great to link with the experts to find out about the latest innovations and products on the market. And so it's fantastic to have Scanning Pens with us this evening. We now hand over to Jim, Jack and James for tonight's session. Good evening, Jim. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Donna. Sorry about that.
Ah, that's okay, Jim. I thought we'd lost you then. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, well, we hand over to you now for tonight's session.
Brilliant. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'm just going to get onto that. Brilliant. Okay, I'd just like to say a huge thank you for everyone who's joined the webinar today. I know that you've taken time out of your busy schedules to join us today and listen to us on our webinar today. So I'd just like to say a big thank you for everyone who's joined. First, I'd like to introduce ourselves. So Donna just briefly introduced ourselves. So I'm Jim, and I've been working for Scanning Pens for the last year and a half now, and it's just been an amazing opportunity for me. I'd also like to say that I am also dyslexic as well, and that includes Jack himself as well. And I can totally understand all of the struggles that you've come across. Just one personal experience before I move on is I had extra time in my exams. I wasn't diagnosed dyslexic until I was about 14 years old, and I always struggled with especially homework as well. And I've since joining Scanning Pens have just realised how important assistive technology is and how important one of these pens could be. So I'm now going to move on to our first slide. So this is just the webinar agenda here. So I'm going to be talking about the white reader pen today, and I'll be showing a few short little clips and going through exactly what the reader pen is, what it does, and all the different features and benefits with that today. And then Jack will be going on to the exam reader and talking through that, and there'll be some videos with that. And then finally James will be talking about some of the research and studies there, and then we'll end with some questions. So if anyone's got any questions at the end, I'm sure Donna will sort that out. So I'll move on to the next slide, and this is just a little slide briefly talking about a bit about us and how we came about. So we established in 2004, and there was only 2 people then at the start, and we sold the first item, which was the WizCom that a few of you might have heard of, which is a really old, outdated device. And then eventually the reader pen, the C pens were invented, where the reader pen and exam reader. We now have offices located in the UK, the US, Canada and Australia, and we do worldwide shipping. We represent all mobile scanner manufacturers, and we supply directly to schools, colleges, university assessors and individuals as well. So you'll see us everywhere, and you can get us on Amazon, on the internet, anywhere as well. So I just briefly want to go over the reader pen and some of the key features and benefits and some of the key factors there with the pen, and just go over them in detail here. So you can see here it says increase independence and confidence. What we mean here is the pen is a device that allows that individual, that student, to increase and feel more independent. So instead of asking for someone and being reliant on a human or an adult to help them, they can then grab the pen, plug in their headphones, which I will explain, and all the different features on the pen in more detail. But what this allows them to do is become more independent, and it boosts their confidence. It's something personally myself I'd find more interesting, instead of having to rely on a human reader later in life. One of these pens can help, and something I would have used myself as well. So then where it says curriculum available tool, what do we mean by this? This allows that individual to access that curriculum. The teacher doesn't need to get something different for them to use. They're now teaching they're at the same level, learning at that same level. With this pen, this allows them to sit there independently with their headphones and access the curriculum for themselves. That's the main part here. They're accessing it themselves without anyone's help, and causing any distractions as well there. And also don't forget that the pen can help support EAL students here as well. So students who do struggle with, who have English as a second language, can pick up one of these pens and start to learn English that way as well. And because EAL students learn, and we all learn so successfully through audio, it's just a really great way there. And a point that I'd just like to highlight is the pen will help improve reading comprehension, because you're starting to then read for yourself. You're not relying on a computer to read it for you. You're not relying on a human reader. You're starting to read over sentences, and with the pen you can then pick up that odd word, a line, and start to read it back to yourself. And James will pick this up in on his part about how the research and studies have shown that it does improve reading comprehension, and it's going to save money. Instead of paying for a TA to sit there of the classroom, like teachers, the teacher's time to go there as well, and also parents who might pay for really expensive software, for example, for them to use, they can then buy one of these pens, and Jack will show the cost savings calculator that can be used, which you can plug in some of the costs, and it will show you all the different costs that you save. I hope that I'm not going too quickly here. So now what I'm going to do is explain from the basics what the pen is, because I know some of you might not know what this pen is, or some of you have got a trial, or you're thinking about a trial. So I just want to go over the core basics of what the pen is, what it does, and all the different features on there. So what it is, it's a small, tiny device that basically scans over printed text and then reads it instantly back to you. And also what the pen has is a feature, a jack, 3.5mm jack, that you can plug in your headphones and listen back to it, so you don't have to use the speaker there as well. It's just like your mobile. It powers up. It's got a battery on there, so it gives you that portability feature there that you can just put in your pocket and walk around as well there. And basically the pen takes up to 2-3 hours to charge, and you get 8 hours full battery use. So this is, I'm talking using it constantly all the time there as well, so it will last you for a very long time as well there. So what happens is, or which you'll see in a video shortly, as you hold down the pen, and as you scan over a line, lift it up, it will then repeat it back to you. So as I said, it instantly reads a word, line, paragraph, or text. So what the pen's really useful for is someone who's reading along some text, they see a word that they don't understand. It could be that one word that's really difficult to understand. You can then scan it and then have it replayed back to you. And what's great about the pen is that you might shy away from a human, especially myself, that I would do, is you can scan that word, press the middle button, and it will repeat it back as many times as you like. I know as human nature, you will not ask a human reader to repeat back to you 5-6 times. You will just then move on. And I know a lot of people that do a lot is they skim read. So with the pen, this allows you to then start reading for yourself and picking up that odd word, so it gets away and stops you from skim reading, because this is something that I do personally myself as well. The next feature that the pen does is it has a dictionary mode on, which I will show you in the next slide. And just some of it you can just see on the slide there, it says dyslexia. So it is mainly aimed at people that may have dyslexia, for example, people who are partially sighted, English as a second language, learners of English there as well, or just someone who generally wants to improve their English. Don't forget the pen not only helps that, but can also help someone who does have a decent reading ability but might struggle with that odd one word that could potentially increase their grades or help them to improve their reading ability. I'm just now going to move on to the next slide. So you can just see here, it's a lot of people ask me what kind of age range that we would suggest. We usually say around 6+ here. So you're looking at about year 4 there that the pen can be used. And as you can see from the photo in the slide there, young girl using one of our pens. And you will shortly see a video of someone using the pens as well. The scan, so basically some of the features on there is the scan to file feature. So what the feature on the scan to file is on the reader pen, which will allow you to do is scan text. It's a great data capturing tool where you can scan the text and save it onto its 8 GB storage. So what you can do is scan the text, it will then save it, and then you can replay it back and listen back to it later on. Or you can plug it into your with the USB cable provided into your computer or laptop, and you can instantly scan. So it acts as a keyboard. You can instantly scan text and it will flick it across onto the next screen as long as the cursor's flashing. So this is great for data and capturing tools. It's mainly, I'd say, like for college or university students who are in the library and see a quote that they want to use or something that they want to upload onto the computer there as well. So I just mentioned briefly earlier about the dictionary mode here. So we've just recently added the Oxford Primary Dictionary because the Collins Dictionary was quite long-winded and it used Latin definitions in there as well. So what we've decided to do is to simplify the dictionary definitions. We found that this is much easier. Even when I looked at it myself, it actually made much more sense there, and it just simplified definitions there. So what the dictionary mode allows you to do is you select it and you then can look over a piece of text, and if there's a word that you don't understand, you can scan the pen on the dictionary mode and then it will repeat back the definition back to you there. So you can do that as many times as you like there. The other mode on here is the left and right-handed mode. So what this will allow you to do is change it from left to right-handed. So we haven't forgotten you left-handed people. We basically, what it'll do is in the settings, which I'll show you short in this little video, it'll show you is that you can select left-handed and it flips the screen so someone left-handed can then use the pen. Not only have we thought about the left-handed mode, but also someone who left-handed might find it awkward to scan from there. So you can actually scan right to left, left to right, and it will read from the natural side as well for you. So you can scan left to right, right to left, all the way down, and it'll still repeat it back to you. Another thing that I just want to mention is once the screen is on the text, so a lot of people ask me, can you scan huge chunks of text? Yes, you can, but the pen is aimed to help encourage you to start reading for yourself and picking that odd word, couple of lines. I'm not saying that you can't do that, but once the pen and the text is on the screen of the pen, you can then press your back button, which I'll show shortly in the little video I've got here. It will then repeat it back to you. So it will appear on the screen. You press the back button, then press the middle button, and then it will repeat it all back to you again. And also with the white reader pen, it also gives you free online updates, which is on the readerpen.com website that we'll provide later on for you. So I'm now just going to move on to a short little video clip, which will just show me, I was going to show originally a video from our YouTube channel, but I've decided to just do my own video. It just shows you basically all of the different features on a C-Pen video there. So I hope you all enjoy it. Now I'm going to quickly go over the white reader pen and two of the features here, but I'm now going to discuss the text reader feature and the dictionary mode. So this is the main screen, and this is how you get onto all of the different options. To get onto the text reader feature, use this button here, and you just click the middle button, which then brings onto the part that you're ready to scan. and you've got to make sure that this cursor's flashing, which tells you that it's ready to scan. And then when you're scanning the pages, just ensure that the nib just there is pressed down and the light comes on. So I'm now going to just look at this nice Roald Dahl book and just show you just how scanning a sentence, how easy it is to do. So you just hold it down like this, go across, and then you just get to the end. And if you want to go on to the next sentence, you do exactly the same. So now you can just see there it's on the screen of the pen, and then if you want all of the whole paragraph repeated back to you, just press the back button and it gets to the end, and then press the middle button. There we go, so that's just the text reader feature. And if you want to see the dictionary mode, you just press the down arrow, the middle button, and then we just select a word that we want to hear the definition back to. So I'm now going to look at valley. And then you can just see it's on the screen there. And if you want to hear the definition, just press the middle button again. So there we go, it's just giving you a quick definition. I hope you enjoyed the demo. Okay, so I hope everyone heard that, and the sound quality and video quality was okay there. I'd just like to highlight that, as you could see, it's probably spoke a little bit slowly. So basically what I did was, which is another feature on the pen, is the word pause mode. So what we got as a lot of feedback was that instead of slowing down the text because it becomes slurry, we actually added a word pause, so it will pause up to 4 seconds in between each word, just to allow you, so especially for people with processing issues, to hear the word and the gaps in between the words as well there. So I just slowed down the text there just so people could hear for this video as well. The next slide that I'm going to go on to is the support and some of the things that we can offer for anyone out there who's got one of our pens or purchased here. So we've got a lot of case studies on our website that you can go to as well, that just shows you all the different research and studies that we've been doing. Again, James will go over some of that in more detail. We've got some of the videos that we've done there, so any of the online tutorials that I've done for myself as well, and some of our webinar clips are on there as well there. So if you want some of these, we will be sending a copy of the webinar slides anyway, but if you've got any more questions, please let me know on this as well. So this is just basically some of the more support that we offer here, which is how to hold the pen. I can't emphasize how important this is. We do get a lot of people coming back saying it speaks gobbledygook, so I just suggest that basically I'll run through this very quickly with you. So when you're holding the pen and using it, make sure that you hold it with your 2 hands around the edges of the pen and make sure that you grip it hard. I have found that maybe wrapping around a couple of rubber bands might help as well to give you some grip. With people who might have dyspraxia as well, this might help them. Always make sure that you hold it at a 75-degree angle. If you hold it too high up or too flat, it won't capture all the text. And as you can see from the picture there, that light comes on, and I've shown you in the video as well. So you've got to make sure that that nib is pressed all the way down, and always making sure that you're holding the line and keeping it in line as well there. A lot of people find that you might actually capture 2 lines at once, and if this does happen, it will tend to read in gobbledygook there. So just make sure you're holding it at a 75-degree angle and you're holding it in a nice grip as well there. So this is taken from our implementation guide here, and James will explain that in more detail. And then there's just there on the right hand side is the reader pen and all the different features there, but this will be found on our website as well. I just want to show one more little video clip, and this is a school that we recently visited and done a video case study with called Harroway Community School, and this has got one of the students there who used one of our reader pens, and she's just talking about how it's helped her out. So I'll just quickly show you this.
I got the free trial, which was excellent, and while I had them on the free trial, it just so happened there was a Year 11 student who's got quite significant reading needs. She took them home, got to grips with them straight away and really found it made a significant difference to her. Her parents were so positive and said what a difference it made to her reading, both the pleasure at home and her confidence in the exams. It's very discreet, so it hasn't really had much impact on the rest of the class. I would definitely advise it as a very discreet way to support a student that needs some help. Everyone's just been like, oh, what's that? Being quite positive about it and like, oh, that's really cool. I think the biggest improvement I've seen actually though is in the confidence, their confidence to actually approach a text that they haven't seen before, and to be able to involve themselves in the class in much more depth as well.
It's helped me so much. Like, I've just noticed so much of a difference in just my English altogether since I've been using it. I totally recommend anyone to go get it who struggles with reading.
So that was just a short little video clip that we taken recently from the Harroway Community School there, and you can just see from that video there how important the reader pen has been in the classroom here. I'm now going to move on to the next part of our webinar, is the exam reader. I'm now going to pass on to Jack Churchill, who will now explain it in more detail to you. So I'm now going to pass on to you, Jack.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, everyone, and thank you also to the BDA for allowing us to run this evening's event. My name is Jack Churchill. I'm the co-founder of Scanning Pens. This is a business I set up 15 years ago, in fact, this month, so we've got a bit of an anniversary coming up. In that time, the technology has come on a long way. We've now got cameras in the end of the pens rather than scanners. The voice has changed from being similar to Stephen Hawking to be nearly a sort of human synthesized voice. And also the memory is so much larger that we can put lots of dictionaries and voices onto the pen, and we can make it really fast and really accurate. And this was something that was lacking on the technology from 15 years ago that some of you may remember. As a dyslexic and having accommodations at school, I know what a difference it makes having support in your exams. I wouldn't have got the results I got in my GCSEs and A-levels without having exam accommodations. And therefore, I'm really passionate about helping people to be able to access exam papers. It is my belief that thousands of children, both in the UK and around the world, struggle with reading paper-based exam questions, and therefore to provide a really simple device like this orange exam reader pen that you can see here to allow them to quickly access the text back in their classroom with headphones on is a really fantastic thing that we can now offer. The JCQ, I believe, have done something really quite remarkable and a world first. They've said that anyone taking an exam can use an exam-approved reading pen in any exam without the need for accommodations. This means that people who struggle with reading, have English as an additional language, can now be supported. And of course, along with all those who already get accommodations. For those of you who don't know, the JCQ is the umbrella organisation in the UK that oversees the exams. What they have said is that it has to be part of the normal way of working, so you can't just give it to a student on the day. It has to be used during the run up to their exam, and it's centre delegated, so it's up to the school, the exam officer, the SENCO to decide if it's a suitable thing for them to use, and then they can have it back in the main exam hall. The pens all come with headphones, so they're not disturbing anyone else. The two reasons this pen came about was the JCQ identified that children were going to leave school at some point pretty soon after taking their exams, and they had to be set up to be more independent. We can't send people out into the workplace who are reliant on human readers to sit with them all the time. And the second thing is that some of the schools were really struggling with the number of children who required support with reading, and some schools have had 50 children taking one exam who require human support, and the schools just can't cope. They don't have enough rooms, and they don't have enough readers. And you need to have, trained readers all ready to go. You can't just pull people in to read exam papers. So this orange exam reader pen is approved by the JCQ. No access arrangements are needed. It can be used in the English reading GCSE paper, where a human reader is not allowed. Now that's a really important thing. That's probably the most important exam that any student in the UK is going to take. And the reason the pen is allowed is it doesn't have intonation, whereas a human does have intonation. So that's why they don't allow the human reader to help read that question. The exam reader is locked down to follow strict JCQ guidelines. So there's no dictionary, there's no storage, and it's bright orange for that reason. So it stands out maybe in an exam hall where you've got 300 students perhaps as the one that's approved for exams. So all it does is read aloud, and that is it. There's nothing else on it. It also makes it quite a good device for local government or people who work in hospitals and sensitive places where they don't want data to be stored digitally. So this is another area where this pen is useful. The exam reader pen is also approved for use in Key Stage 2 SATs, but not in the English reading SAT. So that means any child taking the SATs who struggles with reading can use this device. And as we mentioned earlier, it could be EAL, could be dyslexia, and you don't need accommodations. So just going on to the next slide. As I mentioned earlier, the JCQ have done something amazing, which no other exam board have done around the world. They've allowed the pen to be used without accommodations. And my hope is that in the coming years, more exam boards will allow the pens to be used without accommodations, effectively breaking down barriers to allow more people to access the exam paper. If you can't read the question, you can't answer it. And often, so many times these children have got the knowledge in their head. They know what they need to know for their exam, but they just can't decode a word. Maybe it's a complicated word, or maybe it's a phrase on their exam question, and it's not fair on them if they can't read the question, because then they can't answer it. So as well as JCQ, we've got the Cambridge and IB, International Baccalaureate, and SQA in Scotland, and the Independent Schools Examination Board, which does the common entrance, have allowed the pen to be used. Now, for those other exam boards, you have to have accommodations. You have to apply to them to use the pen. So just going on to the next slide now. So I've done a quick just comparison of reading assistance, exam anxieties for the schools. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see human reader. This is probably the most common solution still, and it's probably the most expensive solution. Now, in these orange boxes, I've got some questions that the school might be asking. Do you have enough readers for the students who need support? How much is this costing? Sometimes to pull teachers out of other classes or TAs out of other classes, children are sometimes missing out on classes they were meant to be having. So often there's extra costs, which aren't always apparent. So there's impact of resourcing teachers. Now, to do with computer readers on the right-hand side, there's quite a bit of work preparing for the exam, wiping the computer, obtaining PDF exam papers, sourcing different rooms, employing extra invigilators. With the exam reader pen, obviously, they're back in the main exam hall managing on their own. So, you have to make sure the autocorrect, the internet, the dictionaries are all switched off. Do you have enough rooms? And do you have enough computers for the students who want to take that exam? So just going on to the next slide, there's also anxieties for the candidates. So on the left-hand side, the human reader, how many times can I ask him to repeat the question? You may know the teacher, you may not know the teacher. These are sometimes quite self-conscious young people, and they are sometimes embarrassed to ask, and so sometimes the human reader isn't always the best option. It also requires these extra invigilators, separate rooms. Who is this person reading to me? And then on the right with the computer reader, the anxieties for the candidate. Why do I look different? Why am I being put in a separate room? Sometimes the students don't always know what all the buttons do on the software because they're not necessarily using the particular software all the time. So this can create anxieties on the day of the exam. And will I have enough time to? So just going on to this slide. So just comparing up human readers to computer readers to the reader pen. I mean, as a company, we would always say it's about finding the right solution for the individual, and there's always going to be children who need different types of solution. However, the reader pen, which of course we're talking about tonight, it allows them to be back in the main exam hall managing on their own. So it is in fact the cheapest solution, and it's the easiest for the exam centres. There's no staff, no PDF, exam paper, etc. Anybody can use the pens, not just children with access for arrangements, and it can be used in that English GCSE reading paper, as I mentioned earlier. So, I mean, I always recommend, people use all these things in their everyday life. On your computer, use text-to-speech. Always, use your teacher as much as possible in class. But if you're independent working and reading of paper-based materials, the reader pen is a fantastic solution, and particularly in exams, it can be very helpful. So yeah, this summer we went to the University of Limerick, who have got a lot of these pens, and they're using them to facilitate the exam process. And it's, I think you'll see in the short video how it's changed how they manage the exam process. So theoretically, what we've got children in primary school, secondary school, and in higher education using these pens. And I hope you enjoy this video.
We have an assessor with them. We sometimes give them extra time, sometimes we give them human readers, but we found that a lot of students were reluctant to ask the invigilator to read the question for them. And what happened was there were so many rooms required for readers that we were stretching almost the whole length of our whole main building. We knew this wasn't practical going forward, so we had to find that kind of solution, and that's where the exam reader pen came in.
The pen makes it much easier, kind of less awkwardness there, that you're not asking someone, not relying on someone to read something back to you that just couldn't make head nor tail of. But if you pen, you've no fear of that at all. You can just scan whatever you want, go over it and listen back.
So we started originally with 5 reading pens, then it went to, I think, 126 last semester. Just with first years alone, I think it saved us something like €7,000. But we were predicting that maybe when every year is using it, that we'd be saving approximately 25,000 this semester. But most of all, it's taken over that need for the students to be reliant on someone else.
So yeah, I mean, I think you'll all find it quite interesting that so many students are now able to use that to take their exams in universities too. Obviously, dyslexia runs through, everyone in society. There's 1 in 10, I think the BDA say, and so it doesn't matter whether you're low functioning or high functioning. You could be doing chemistry as a master's, as one of those girls in that video was doing, and you still struggle with reading. So for a lot of institutions, cost is always an implication. So we've put together a calculator on our website, and just so you know, these slides will be made available to you again, so you can download them. And this calculator allows you to basically enter in the number of readers you currently use, the number of rooms you currently use, and it will tell you over a 3-year period how much money you'll save by investing in the exam reader pen for exams and the reader pen for everyday use. That concludes my part of the presentation. I'm going to pass over to my colleague James Green, and he's going to talk about research and statistics. Thank you. I think James is just unmuting himself.
Are you going to? Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Jim. We just need James to unmute himself. Thanks.
Hi, sorry about that. Hi, sorry about that. I was trying to get my other headphones working. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the statistics and the research that we've undertaken
with Bath Spa University, but also more importantly, you know, this formulates part of what we're doing as a company. We're looking at how the technology is helping us improve the products, and I think Jack and Jim have alluded to this with the implementation of the camera technology, the Oxford Primary Dictionary, the word pausing. You know, we're constantly trying to upgrade and improve the pens so that we can develop, you know, and then support children to become confident, independent learners. So the Bath Spa research was really important because we gave an inner city school in the middle of Birmingham 40 of our pens, or 30 of our pens, and what happened was they were able to use those pens over a 6 to 12 week period, and we had a control group and we had the intervention group. What happened was that the students were pre-tested without the pen. They were then able to use the pen for 6 weeks, and at that point they were able to use the pen in school and at home, and the home aspect was extremely important, because it enabled the students to continue their study at home, which had always been a serious point of conflict or issue for the students themselves, because they were unable to access the work and their learning in an appropriate, timely manner, which other students were able to do. So what happened was they were able to use it at home and at school, and then we tested them again subsequently. Both points of testing, they weren't given the pens to use, and that was important, because only the intervention group saw a significant rise in their reading comprehension, as opposed to the control group who didn't have the pens at all. So what we found was that the students after the trial were asked their opinion, and 72% of them felt that their reading had improved, which correlated to the actual study that we did. Also, 82% of them felt that their reading and understanding had improved, which, you know, also correlated with the findings of the study. But what was also important was that the teachers reported the increased independence and the use of the pen as a scaffold. Okay, so that Jim mentioned this earlier, that the students are able to start the lessons at the same point as everybody else. They're able to access the same material as everybody else. The teacher doesn't need to differentiate the material. They're using the same text as everybody else. So it made the situation for the teachers change from having to support the children with reading questions, and instead the children were asking learning questions. And I think that's the subtle change that the technology brings into the classroom that other pieces of tech just don't do without a large amount of training, change in pedagogical approach. You've got to digitize all of your resources. And I think with the what we noticed in this study was the ease of adoption, and that was an important element as well. So out of the study, what we found was that the students required slightly simpler dictionaries, and so we brought on board the Oxford Primary Dictionary. That has helped you know, immensely with a variety of different students, from dyslexic students all the way through to students with EAL or other, you know, hidden learning disabilities. They also said that they wanted more training and more guidance on how to adopt the pens. And so what we did is we created an implementation and user guide. Now this is really important, because what we're trying to do is work with schools in adoption of assistive technology so that they can improve learning outcomes for the students. Now, the implementation guide is there to say, hey, you've got a trial, this is how you use the pen, this is how to get the most out of it. But it's also starting to say, where is the impact within the classroom? Who are the students who are getting the most out of that? And there are a number of elements within the implementation guide, like children's logs, a review tool, the examination calculator, savings calculator that Jack alluded to as well. So the whole thing comes together so that we're actually taking, or starting to take schools on a journey where we're starting to say, hey, are you a dyslexic friendly school? Are you ready to adopt assistive technology for the whole school? rather than just 1 or 2 identified students that you feel would benefit from this. So as a company, we're trying to raise the vision of schools in terms of the adoption of assistive tech, but we're also trying to engage with parents. And we recently undertook a video case study at a primary school, and I thought it would be nice to bring into this conversation the parents' voice, because we've listened to a child and a school, we've listened to an institution talk about the cost savings, but I think really where we're seeing the benefits of the pen is in home use. And it just allows children to keep up with their peers, but also in a timely way, so they're not spending the whole evening trying to complete the comprehension exercise or read through that chapter in their biology textbook. So the parental voice and the impact at home, you know, we can't underestimate the impact that it has on home life, and the impact it has on siblings, on parents, on the relationship between the students and their parents, and also the students' relationship back at school. You know, this whole stress and issues around coming to school or doing their homework are sort of alleviated slightly by the deployment and adoption of assistive tech. So we're going to listen to a parent's voice right now.
Wasn't at his desired reading age. You know, we did everything that we could. We bought books, we tried to read with him, but he just was not interested. And then after some interventions, you know, they really did help that the school provided, but then the C pen was mentioned this year. He was behind with his English. The school recognised that. We just did all that we could. His spelling wasn't up to standard. His reading definitely wasn't up to standard. Then we were given the C pen, and it was, you know, it has been really transformational actually. His confidence with reading has improved, and now we're getting to the point that I can't keep up with deliveries of books, because, you know, he's read all the Percy Jackson books, he's on the next set now, he read all the David Walliams books, and it really has been amazing. Now he uses the C pen a lot at school. He doesn't need it as much at home anymore because he's confident with reading. He was using it just to scan the odd word that he didn't understand. But now, seriously, every night he reads, and that is having a sort of domino effect in my house, because my younger son, who hasn't got dyslexia, now he wants to read, so he's reading some of the books. So we really are grateful, and I can't really recommend the pen highly enough.
So I think, you know, the conversations that we're hearing from parents, you know, are echoed by teachers. They're echoed by the children themselves. It's about putting the technology in the hands of the people where it's going to make have the most impact. And I think you just saw it or heard it there, where that parent's life and relationship with their child, with the school, has you know, changed dramatically. I know from the conversations I've had that, you know, that lady was, you know, at her wit's end. She'd tried interventions. They were going through a number of interventions. It was helping, but with the additional technology and the use of the scanning pen, it had just made their life a lot easier and given their child a you know, that independence and that confidence that he required to move on. So I hope you've enjoyed the 3 separate areas. You know, we've looked at the reading pen and the impact that can have, you know, on learning with the dictionary, with the access to text. Jack's spoken about the exam reader, and importantly, that children and students can go into exams, the same exam hall as everybody else. There's no additional need for readers or separate rooms or additional accommodations. The JCQ have approved this as long as it's your normal way of working, and this is where we want to strive it to be, really, is that technology becomes part of their normal way of working, you know, regardless of the severity or their learning issues, so that everybody is able to access learning and to succeed. And I think that's predominantly what and primarily what we're about as a company. We want children to succeed with dyslexia, not have it as something that holds them back, but sort of work with it, celebrate it, and celebrate the differences that it brings into their lives, and then move forward. So I'm going to hand over to Jim, who's just going to finish off the last few slides, and then we'll be looking forward to taking your questions.
Thank you, James. That was brilliant. So yeah, you just heard there all of the different research studies and watched a nice little video from Yardley. I actually visited Yardley myself, and it is just incredible to see all the different technology they had there, and then seeing how the video at the end, to see how the pen is working for them as well there. And I do feel that it's great that we're now getting the pen at such a young age, and we're capturing that and helping them to then, when they develop into secondary school, that they've got technology and they're already starting to use it. I think that's so important as well. Something that I didn't have at all. I struggled a lot at primary school. So I just want to go over this slide here. So this is if you are looking to get one of our pens and you're thinking, wow, how much is it? Well, we'll explain that, and we'll have links there if you want to look at how much it is. But we also do offer free 30-day trials for schools, colleges and universities. So we know that once it gets into your hands that you want to trial it, see how it works, see if it is effective there. So you can request it from our website, which will be on our slides at the end there. And we also offer it for parents and individuals. We offer a 2-week returns policy. So you would need to pay up front. However, you'll get a 2 weeks, and we can be lenient on this as well, and then return it back to us, because we understand that it might not be for everyone, as other people do have more different needs as well there. So I'm basically now reaching the end of the slideshow. I'd just like to say thank you for everyone for tuning in today and taking the time out to listen to us on our webinar slides. I'm now going to pass on to Donna, who will conclude.
Thanks, Jim. That was absolutely brilliant, a real brilliant overview, I think, of the product, from the research through then to the grassroots level of where the actual pen really comes into its own. So we've got lots of questions, as you can imagine. If I could ask the three of you unmute yourselves, because I've got a feeling that we're going to be having a bit of a dialogue now as we decide who's going to answer which. Okay, so we'll get started. We've got a question about GCSE, using the pen in the exams. I know Jack was talking about that. And Nikita is asking, can the exam pen be used in English GCSE paper, as you cannot use it in Key Stage 2 SATs reading? So a little bit more information about how the pen is used at English GCSE, please.
Thanks, Donna. Yes, Nikita. Yeah, at Key Stage 2 SATs, you're not allowed to use it in the English comprehension part, but in GCSEs, you can use it on any part of the exam papers, and that includes the reading section of the English GCSE. And it says this is a centre delegated arrangement. It must be the candidate's normal way of working in class and/or mock examinations. No evidence is required. It can be used in the reading section of the English GCSE, where a human reader isn't allowed.
Brilliant, thanks, Jack. Okay, so now we've got a question from Angela. She's at the University of Suffolk. Good evening, Angela. She's asking something quite practical. She says, can you tell me where we can get hold of replacement charging cable for our C-Pen reader, which is in a shared room at her outreach centre at the Uni in Suffolk, because she thinks somebody's walked away with it and now they can't find it. So they're looking to recharge the device. So just a very practical question, guys. Where can she get a replacement charging cable from?
Shall I answer that one too? It's just a micro USB cable. So you may find you've already got some knocking around at the university or at home anyway. But if you really come unstuck, then feel free to get in touch with us, and I'm sure we can sort you out with a replacement.
Brilliant. Okay, another question, Jack, which I think could be heading your way. This is about exams as well. It's from Katie, but this time it's A-levels. Can these pens be used in A-level exams?
Absolutely. So the JCQ cover the A-level exams too, and so as long as it's part of the student's normal way of working, they can use it in their exams. That's no problem. And of course, when you go into university, the universities set their own exams. So it's just a matter of checking with the exam department at the university to see whether it would be allowed. But yeah, as they set their own exams, usually they decide on the accommodations. And there's no reason why it wouldn't be allowed at a university either. But you just have to contact your own university.
Great, thanks, Jack. And maybe one that's connected as well. We've got Kathy asking, does this work for adults in the workplace and in learning environments? So I guess it's linked to what you've just said about university, but this is more in the workplace.
Yeah. Why don't I'll pass it to my colleague James to answer at this point, because I think he might have an opinion.
Hi. Yeah, obviously the workplace is another area where the pens come into their own, especially if you're dealing with, you're not wholly in an office all the time, or you're dealing with paper or paper emails or faxes, even in this day and age. We've worked with a number of organisations, including Ernst & Young, and they particularly liked the exam pen because it didn't have any storage on it. So they were quite happy for that pen to be used with legal documentation, because the pen didn't store it or take it away.
And if I could add one more thing on that, it would be about apprenticeships. I've been into quite a lot of colleges recently, and they have a lot of young people going out to do apprenticeships, and these people are entering the workplace for the first time. And the exam reader pen and the reader pen offer a great solution for those individuals being in an office and working environment and quickly being able to read and understand words and paragraphs that they may be presented with. Some people say to me, oh, but you've now got apps on your phone and all the rest, and those apps are brilliant, but often in a workplace environment, particularly if it's a new job, and there may well be data sensitivities to going around taking photos of documents in your office or hospital or local government or whatever it is. So something like the exam reader pen, which is locked down for exams, just means that everyone can feel happy. It's also very discreet too. If you're in a meeting, you can just have one, or even in a classroom, you have one earpiece plugged in. You can still be listening to the teacher or the meeting going on whilst scanning over any text you may be unsure about. I don't know if this is, dyslexic people seem to go and do a whole variety of jobs. So often they aren't in an environment where there's a computer in front of them. They may be in a hairdresser's, or they may be a tree surgeon, they may be a mechanic, they may be doing practical things, which means they're not always in front of a screen. So having a little portable device that you have in your bag or jacket, which can quickly allow you to read information you've been given or health and safety handouts, can be really useful.
Great, thanks, Jack. And that is a good point about not always being near computers. We have a part 2 to Nikita's question, just quickly. So she just asked earlier about the use in GCSE English. She's saying, can the pen be used for English language GCSE also?
Yes, it's absolutely fine. No need for accommodations. So.
Thanks, Jack. Okay.
Well, and I suppose I just add, if she's unsure or got any questions, on our website we show the whole JCQ handbook page, and also she can go online and she can look at the JCQ handbook and turn to page 44 of it, where there's a whole page on the use of the pen in exams.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so now we've got something that might be a little bit more about how the pen works. Alexandra's asked, do you have to empty or clear the memory of text for the reader pen?
So there's a couple of answers to that. It has an append and replace, so you can actually have it in two modes. It can actually keep the text, or it can replace it as it goes. But the pen also has 4 gig of storage, so that's for thousands and thousands of pages. So there's really no chance that the pen would run out. But when you turn the pen on and off, if you haven't saved the scanned text to file, or if you haven't saved it to file, it will just disappear off the pen anyway.
Great. Thanks, James. Glenda's asking, does it read numbers and foreign languages?
So the pens come with a number of different foreign languages. The reader pen has English, French, and Spanish, and that comes with monolingual dictionaries. So that's perfect for anybody who's starting to learn French or Spanish, and is also looking for definitions and so forth in English. With the exam pen, it comes with a variety of other languages, including Italian, German, Russian. So there's a number of other languages there that it can read and can be extremely useful for students who are learning additional languages or come from those places where they speak those languages in the first instance, and that's their mother tongue. Was there the second part to the question, Donna?
No, that's it, James. I'm just looking now because we've got Kim is asking about Welsh, so I'm going to read Kim's question out. She's asking, what fonts can the pen read? Can the pen read the Welsh language? And she then mentions about this update service. How long is that included for once you've purchased a pen and an exam reader? Are the updates something that you need to pay a kind of annual subscription to?
Yeah, let me jump in there quickly. So I'm afraid the Welsh language isn't supported at this moment. Updates are available for free, going forward. So if a new voice or a new dictionary is released in the coming months, you can go and download the latest firmware to your pen and then have all the latest features, and that's totally free. I was just going to get back to James's point just to clarify. So yeah, the reader pen will read in English, Spanish, and French, like you said. The exam reader pen is in English, French, German, Italian, and Spanish. And then we also have a dictionary pen, which is in all those languages, plus Russian, Chinese, and English to Arabic. So just to qualify that point as well. No problem. And was there a second part of her question which I missed, or did I get it?
It was just about the updates, I think, Jack, which you covered.
Yeah, I covered that. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so we've got another question now. You mentioned that it transfers onto a computer. Is this a text file that goes into Word or an audio file?
Yeah, so the reader pen actually has, you can capture text and put it onto the computer, and you can capture sound. It includes a voice recorder too. So the text you capture in the scan to file on the reader pen is stored as text, so .txt, and the pen is just like a USB cable. So when you go to plug it into your computer, that .txt file will appear on the screen, and you can just copy and paste that into Word or Excel or email or whatever you want, because it's text. With the sound files, you can record in WAV or MP3, and you can select low or high recording quality. And again, when you plug it into the computer, it will transfer those MP3 and WAV files. So actually, this pen can be used for either recording voice memos on it, or indeed you can leave it at the front of the class and record the teacher or lecturer. You may not be happy leaving your mobile phone at the front of the class for the whole lesson or lecture, but to leave a device like this at the front of the class really probably isn't going to worry you too much, and you can then go back and either listen to the sound again on the pen, or you can put it onto your computer for nearer exam time, and you can listen again to what your teacher or lecturer was telling you.
And there are two other points as well. The teacher can leave lesson objectives on the pen, so the child can still remain completely independent without asking, what do I do next? Which is useful, and also they can record their voice so they can practice their pronunciation and those sorts of things, which is particularly useful if the children are EAL or you're practicing a foreign language.
Fantastic, thank you. Kim, who'd asked about Welsh language, had just come back and said the bit we'd forgotten about was the fonts. She'd asked, can it recognise a variety of fonts? That was the bit we'd forgotten to cover.
Yeah, so the pens do 6 to 22 point in size, and they'll do most standard fonts. And in fact, they'll read a multitude of colors as long as there's enough differentiation between the printed color of the text and the background. It should be able to pick it up. But at the end of the day, these devices are tools, and that's part of the reason why people like the JCQ said it has to be part of your normal way of working. So you begin to work out that there are limitations. You know, you can't scan in billboards, you can't scan in handwriting, and you know it won't read those things out to you. It's for printed materials that you may be given, or you may be reading in a book, get to a word like Quidditch, not sure what it is, scan over the word, hear it aloud. And I'd make that point here that people do sometimes say, well, why not use an app on a phone and stuff? But there's a lot of distracting stuff going on your phone, social media, emails and all the rest. This pen helps someone just concentrate on a word or a line of text and really focus on the job at hand. And they just drag it over the word, and within 3 seconds they're already hearing the meaning, and they can repeat it as many times as they like. So it's really a valuable resource for someone who's struggling with reading. And I would, teachers often say, oh, I've got someone in my class who's really bad at reading, and it'll be great for her. I often say, well, actually, maybe it won't be great for her. It might be, but you've also got lots of other children in your classroom who maybe just struggle with learning new words, and as they're moving through the school, they're coming across more complicated language. The pen has a text-to-speech engine on it, so it can read, really any word that's put into it. And again, I'd caveat that by saying, it's not always going to be perfect. There may be very complicated medical terms which it won't read out perfectly, but on the whole, you scan over a word, it will say it aloud to you, and so it just gives someone that independence to manage on their own, and in turn, that gives them confidence.
Fantastic, thanks Jack. And it looks like the clock's beaten us, unfortunately. We've been absolutely inundated with questions this evening. So I think what we'll say is, as usual, to our listeners, please do message us at the conference email address at BDA, and we will share that across with the team. But also we will be sharing the recording of this session, and on the slides is email addresses of the Scanning Pens team that you've heard this evening, and also we will share email addresses so that you can send your questions through, with lots of other information that we'll share, no doubt, from Scanning Pens as well. So it just leaves me to say a huge thank you to Jim, Jack and James for a really informative webinar. Thank you so much to the three of you.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
Thank you so much to you and the BDA for arranging
well, it's
this.
been a real pleasure, Jack. I've learned quite a lot myself tonight, actually, and I thought I'd already knew quite a bit about Scanning Pens. So I know that you guys are eager to keep this dialogue going. So as I say, our listeners can reach out to BDA and we will pass across, or directly message the team at Scanning Pens. So it just leaves me to say thank you to everyone again. We hope you have a fantastic evening, and good night, everybody.